Welcome to the Nomad BitCast. I'm Nigel Sanderson, and today got a guest with me, Zach Payton. Say what's up to the people, man.
Hey, how you guys doing? And thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Zach is he's a man of financial prowess, I would say, in this field, but he's also very versed in all things pop culture. So wanted to bring you on the big cast to talk about basically. So the Snyder Cut's coming out March 18th.
hmm
I'm excited. How do you feel about the Snyder Cut?
I feel like anything that's DC related, I'm completely apathetic now. But it's funny because it's like, when it comes to the DC, like they have so many movies that are non-canon, like the Christopher Nolan Batman and then the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. And you already have three Jokers and one
Yeah.
that's playing like the same kind of character, and it's like there's no continuity, you know what I mean? So, and along with the fact that the last Justice League movie alone, where you had two different directors, now granted there was something that happened, and that's the reason why that Josh
Yeah.
Whedon had to go in and finish it. But it, I feel like that no matter what, Warner Brothers to me from the outside looks like a micromanagement type of thing. They don't let the people they hire do what they're supposed to do and why they're hired to do it. You can see with Marvel, right, that you have guys like Gunn, et cetera. They kind of have all the creative licensing and it works, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's also a dedicated team to keep that continuity in place compared to with DC, where it's like, you can direct with your eyes closed and it doesn't really work.
Yeah, like even the fact that you said that, like the fact that I found out that Suicide Squad was re-edited and distributed by the company that made the trailer that everybody went crazy about, that trailer with the Queen song. And the
hmm
director David Ayer didn't even know about it. I was like, "What? What? What did you hire him for? You literally just like wasted. You put money down the toilet. So bad.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
And
You need to let him
and
take."
plus, isn't he dealing with legal issues now anyway? So
Oh, he is.
I think so. He was dealing with he was part of that I wouldn't say Me Too, but part of like a pedophile ring, I believe anyway.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's just part of how it is. So I mean, I think he's not. I think that's part of the reason why they brought Gunn in compared to him. Not because I mean the movie was like whatever, but it's you know because he did X-Men as well, didn't he?
David Ayer? No. I know he did End of Watch. I know he did that Bright movie on Netflix.
Yes, he did do the Bright movie. I thought he did the first two X-Men too.
Oh no,
You
no,
know,
no. X-Men 1 and 2, that was Brian Singer.
oh, Bryan Singer.
And
Okay,
I know he's in Hot Water, yeah. But I
okay. I
mean,
must
that
have
doesn't
getting them
surprise.
mixed up anyway. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you're thinking about Brian Singer because Brian
Yeah,
Singer's
yeah.
had rumors like that since like day one. And then during the shooting of what was the Queen movie?
Oh,
Ah,
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody
Yeah,
is
yeah.
when he it finally caught up with him, and he just left the set. And the director, I forget his name. I'm so mad I forget his name, but the assistant director who would later go on direct I can't think today, the Elton John movie, which was great. I loved it even more than Bohemian
Yeah, that
Rhapsody.
was pretty good.
Something Fletcher, he directed the rest of Bohemian Rhapsody, and he
Oh,
took over
okay.
for Brian Singer.
You couldn't even notice there was a difference.
Yeah, you couldn't really. I think that's a testament to his able to adapt to the environment that he was put on and thrust upon. Like, hey, now you're the full director, so finish it. And then because of the Directors Guild, he didn't get the whole credit for it, but I don't think he really wanted it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that movie. But the Elton John movie was spectacular. I loved it. I watched it like 5 times already. I love the movie. But yeah, like Brian Singer, there was reports that he would do this reportedly. He would just leave sets and filming would just keep going, even with him not on set. Like he would film like half a movie, and he's like, "Hey, I'm out," and then they would just keep filming without him. So I guess it finally caught up with him, especially all the allegations of
Right,
stuff he
yeah.
did behind doors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely important to say allegations with that stuff because there's nothing that's proven really, you know what I mean? Ever.
yeah,
And that's
exactly.
just that's important to. But hey, I'm sorry for David Ayer for even saying that he was wrapped
Yeah,
up in.
yeah. The only thing I heard about David Ayer was when he said "F Marvel" during the premiere of Suicide Squad.
Oh, I mean,
He was in the moment. Like Stan Lee
yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
Stan Lee was like, "Hey, I get it." He was hyped. So
I didn't even like the Bright movie. I thought that was bad too.
yeah, it kind of was, man. I think I
I feel like Will Smith. I feel like Will Smith just plays these like roles now just to kind of fit a character type. You know, he's very character types now. You know, and it's what was that movie with him playing his clone and he was fighting his younger self?
I have yet to watch it because it looks so bad.
Gemini, right?
Gemini Man, yeah, Gemini,
Yeah, Gemini
Gemini.
Man. Yeah. So it's like, okay. I mean, I've seen Will Smith beat up various versions of himself a few different times with Men in Black and stuff. So it's like, I mean, and I don't even remember who his co-star was, the alien guy. Um, that's how little it impacted me in terms of like, wow, this is a good movie. And Netflix spends a lot of money on these movies too, you
Yeah,
know,
man. Yeah,
and and going back to like the Warner Brothers thing is like Warner Brothers they dropped a lot of money to get DC rights,
yeah.
so and
Well,
it's not
Warner
working
Brothers
out
always
for them.
had DC rights, right? Because from the beginning they always had it, which is why everybody was like, "How is Marvel thriving when they have half their IP and
Well, yeah,
you're
you have
struggling?"
movie rights, but then you have the toys, the
Oh
games,
yeah,
like that's a whole
yeah,
separate enterprise. You know what I
true.
mean? So when you drop that kind of cash just to keep all that together in house, like you would think, okay, well, I'm just gonna push these movies out just because the fans want them, and then everyone complains and bitches on Twitter and Facebook, like, man, just another half-made movie
Yeah,
just because DC, I think, has more of a following in terms of comic book characters than Marvel.
very
Well, I
true.
feel like that's changing because of the movies, but I think that the comic book enthusiasts, DC is more aligned in that way. You know what I mean? And it just sucks because really you had one Wonder Woman movie that was I liked. And
Yeah.
I mean, don't even get me started with Green Lantern, you know? And then they teased the fact that there was going to be a Green Lantern Corps, and then they hinted at it in the last Justice League movie. So he mentions them in one sentence, and then that was it. I was like, so you're going to
Well,
talk about one of the biggest like comic book characters in the history of U.S. culture, and he just gets a mention, you know?
from what I heard, because that was studio interference, like Zack Snyder's original vision was to have Green Lantern in there. The studio pulled him out, pulled all the footage that was out. Because I listened to Kevin Smith's podcast with Mark Bernard, and he was talking about like he was working with some of the crew member on a different film, and the crew member's like, "Yeah, we shot a lot of stuff that they took out, and one of it was Green Lantern." I was like, "What? How do you take out Green Lantern?" Like, first of all, Green Lantern, like Green Lantern should
Who was
be.
even Green Lantern?
I don't even know. I don't even. That's
Like,
the thing. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was like, if you were the head of DC, DCEU, and you had to pick a new goat for whatever reason you couldn't use Superman anymore, you had to pick a new face of the DCEU. I think it should be a Green Lantern because they're
mm-hmm,
the police of the universe.
right.
Like they have influences everywhere. So like
Mm-hmm,
even if like you pick a Green Lantern and the actor wants to get out of the contract after a few movies, hey, pass the ring on to somebody else. It's a role that can
right.
keep being filled.
And it works because you got John Stewart and you got, Cal Jordan. So you could pick either one of those two and, you have a whole swath of people that can fit, you know?
Yeah, like you have Simon Sabaz. I think you said Guy Gardner. There's like it's a bunch of them. Like, and there's like a big library of of them and their escapades, and then you have other Lantern Corps. You have the
Hmm.
Yellow Lantern Corps, the Red Lantern Corps. Like, and it gets really deep. Like, I honestly thought the DCU should have started in space and then came to Earth because there's so
Right.
many stories you could start in space.
Yeah, Earth is the last
Yeah,
thing that you really need to talk about. With Marvel, it's kind of fleshed out where you start with the heroes on Earth and you kind of go to space because like there's only a handful of space, like alien type of heroes in Marvel. But with DC, it's like you would say at least half come from some kind of like interplanetary or interstellar type of that's the origin of their powers. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's like, but you said you're looking forward to the Snyder cut. What is it in particular that you're looking forward to? Is it just to get clarity on the fact that he should be the one making all this without interference, or are you just giving him the benefit of the doubt?
I'm interested because I look at Zack Snyder's past like filmography. I like what I see. I like to see what his vision of the DCEU is. He's a big fan of I can't think today. I keep forgetting this writer's name. His work about how superheroes are modern day mythological heroes, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see what Zack Snyder does with that, and without any studio interference. Like, this is a one demonstration where the audience was responsible of bringing this, of saying, hey, this is what we want. You guys keep messing up. Give us what we want. They kept being loud for years and years, and now we're finally getting what we want. And
Mm-hmm.
plus, I'm excited because we get more space stuff. We get more dark side. There was Granny Goodness in the trailer. I was like, what? Like, we get to see
Dark
these
Side
worlds that we never talked
was
about.
that portrayal of Dark Side was awful, I think.
You think
You
so?
know what I mean? I think so because, like, look, Jesse Eisenberg as Luth as
Yeah, that was a
he,
miscast.
yeah, that was a horrible. That was a horrible casting. Now,
Yeah.
do you remember the Brandon Routh and Kevin Spacey Superman?
Yes.
That was
Perfect
pretty
casting.
good.
Perfect casting. I'm
That was
mad
great
that.
casting. Problem is, the
Yeah.
movie sucked, but the
Yeah.
casting was good.
Yeah. I was like, it came out in 2006, and I remember I was 16. I was excited for it to come out because I was like, we finally get a Superman movie in modern times with the technology to have crazy fight scenes.
Right,
And
right.
the main villain is Lex Luthor. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Maybe he creates an android that he can fight. Nah, it's his his enemy that he's fighting is like an airplane and like lifting up Earth made from Kryptonian stuff. I was like, come on, you
Hmm.
got technology and you just want to have him. So when Zack Snyder made Man of Steel, I was like, oh, I know he's gonna have crazy fight scenes. I know it. And
Man
what
of
do you
Steel was
have?
good.
Yes, Man of Steel was good. I don't care what nobody says. People are like, oh, Superman doesn't kill. I'm like, he has before in comics, right? So let's calm down on that.
That whole not killing thing. There's certain it's like, and you're right, he has made certain, he has killed in the comics, but it's like the DC is like a multiverse thing, so you could pick whatever iteration you want. You know what I mean? I mean, originally he died and they threw him in the sun and he regenerated and he came
Yeah,
back and no one could ever like fight him because he was unparalleled, and then his Kryptonian weakness was no longer a thing.
right.
And that was the whole fail safe with Batman and the Justice League thing, is that just in case Superman decided to get out of control, like Batman can have that as like a tool to like kind of control him, and get him back down. But, as soon as that comic book version came out of him, I was like, so who do you have that can fight him then? Because when you have a hero that is like the apex, you got to have a villain that at least threatens that. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
So
Like that's one reason I'm not a Superman fan because he's a cheat code. I
he's
think
too strong.
he's
Yeah,
too
there's not. I mean, at least with Batman, you're looking at all his villains with Batman, right? All 30 of them, or how many there are. Like all of them pose a challenge to him, and sometimes they win. With Superman, you kind of win, but he's not type of thing. He's going to come back and find a way to
the,
win at the
the
end of the
man
time.
literally dies and comes back how many
Yeah, that's
times?
not fun.
That's not fun.
Like Yeah,
I mean,
you have
Batman cheats death constantly. Superman just
yes.
dies.
The hero's journey at its finest definitely comes from Batman more, you know, and I feel like that's why more people like Batman than Superman, because Superman's kind of like, okay, you know.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I mean, just because Man of Steel's good doesn't mean that uh Snyder is going to be good with all the other ones, like incorporating you know, Aquaman and all that together. Because I liked the Aquaman movie too. That
yeah, I
was
thought it was
actually
fun.
pretty good.
I think it was. I felt like it was
Uh
a breath of fresh air that DC needed because it was just like
Amber
balls
Heard
to the
though was
wall.
just boring as anything,
I wouldn't
though. I
say
did.
Amber Heard though. She's kind of flat. She's like a flat line.
I feel like she's just casted just to be casted because she's still kind of famous, but not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it's like
But
an
it's,
eye
you know,
candy, nothing more.
I, I mean, if I had a chance to, like, you know, go out with Amber Heard, I'd be like, I mean, just based on your movie performances alone, I can tell you're boring. You know.
This conversation is going to go nowhere, so why don't we just, not even?
I got you. No, but I mean, with Aquaman was pretty good too. The thing is with him that I feel like now they're not putting like these crazy godlike type of villains in these movies. They're like very human. You know,
They
like
have to be.
Aquaman itself was like, you know, that it's human based, like, which is really interesting to me. You don't have like this supernatural like demon like trying to kill everyone. You know what I mean? Because with Aquaman, like, you got a handful of guys who are like human in the original comic books, but the majority of them are supernatural in nature.
They
You
have to
know?
be.
Yeah, but it's like, but then how do you have Batman fight that kind of thing? You know what I mean? So I feel like that's the reason why they kind of scaled down everything.
See, that's the dilemma because DC characters are so OP. They have like 1,000 powers each, and they're
Yeah.
so powerful. They're like gods, and then you have Batman. It's like you can only use the trope that his intellect alone. You can only use that so many times.
hmm
And then I think what annoys me the most is Martian Manhunter is so powerful, but he's so downplayed all the time in the movies
hmm
and the shows and the cartoons, the comics.
hmm
He's always some guy hiding, disguised as somebody else. It's like, why didn't you help? What are you doing? He's like, I have to
He
make
can
sure I'm
literally do
working with the
everything.
government. Yeah, exactly. He could beat Superman if he wants. And then it made it
Yeah,
worse
he
that
can
in the
literally do everything.
yeah, like, and then it made it worse in the comics that they changed his weakness of fire to being a psychological weakness. I was like, you just made him more wimpy. Come on, man. You made him more
I don't like
wimpy.
that. When
Nah,
was
man.
that? I didn't even know that was a thing.
I think it was Jeff Johns who changed it to, and I think it was Jeff Johns. I don't know, but a writer changed it a few years ago where it was psychological that he was afraid of fire
Hmm.
instead of it being an actual weakness. And that's another thing too with these DC characters. They're so OP that they have one trope. It's like a stone or an element or something. It's like,
Right.
come on. It's like
Do
the
you think
Achilles
Zack
heel
Snyder
thing.
would have done a good job with the other Wonder Woman movie, the 1984?
I It depends if Patty Jenkins wrote it because the first one
I
wasn't
don't
written
know.
by
I
her.
don't know who did. Yeah,
She wrote
right.
the
And I
second
think
one.
that I don't know if the second one. Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's kind of like
Some
a George
people,
Lucas type of thing.
yeah, some people are gifted at directing, and then they get enough power because they have such success, and then they're like, hey, write it too, and then it's like, oh,
It's a
you're
whole
not a gifted
separate thing.
writer.
That's too
Yeah,
much work.
it's a whole different beast, man. Whole
Yeah.
different beast, and
Does Zack
then
Snyder write too?
I don't know. I don't. I think he assists. I always see his name with the writer credits. Like he has a regular writer that he writes with. So I think yeah, he does write some of his stuff. His like especially his horror movies. I think, especially the one that's coming out on
hmm
Netflix recently. I think he does, and because a lot of his movies, period, are so like let's say like more like mythical in nature. Everything is more like he loves the slow mo and he loves to emphasize the dramatics with like the humanity behind the whole universal thing type of thing. It's hard to explain,
Hmm.
but he likes that like humanity godlike stuff. Like every time you turned around in Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, there was like Superman looking like he was Jesus, whether he was doing the Jesus pose or there was crosses behind him in the background or something. I'm like, all right, we get it. He's this universe's Jesus. We get it. Enough with the symbolism and stuff. It's like it's too much, man.
Do you think Christopher Nolan would have been a better fit to put this type of stuff together, or do you think he just likes doing his own thing that has nothing to do with this continuity?
I think he likes to do his own thing. The fact that they came to him when they said, "Hey, we're making Man of Steel. We want to incorporate your Batman," and he was like, "Nah, not going to happen. I'll help you guys out and produce it, but not going to happen." And then after Man of Steel came out, and the studio was like, "We're going to have a DCU. This is going to happen." He was out. He pulled out completely. So I think that's not really his thing. I mean, we've all heard his feelings about superhero movies. So I feel like he was like, "Hey, look, I did Batman to get where I needed to be. Now I'm out. I did what I had to do."
Yeah, he doesn't do sequels or anything, and the fact that he did 3 Batman movies says something.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It definitely does. I'm glad he did them because he didn't want to do either one of them, and I'm glad he summed them up and finished them up because Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. I know Dark Knight Rises gets a lot of flack, but I love that movie.
It's I know it's good, and Tom Hardy as Bane's perfect. You know,
Yes,
I
yes,
think he
man.
the amount of skill you need for something like that without having a mask on half the time, and it's just got his eyes. Like that's just incredibly difficult to
Yes,
to understand the amount of
yes, man.
emotion that that guy's got. You know what I mean?
Because we've seen plenty of actors who can't even act with their full face. So it's like,
No, he's a good actor. I like Hardy. He's
oh,
very good.
he's a phenomenal actor, man. And I thought he was perfect in that part. I thought what the character was, how it was written was perfect, man. It was just good all around, man. Let me ask you this: how you feel about Tenet? How do you feel about that?
You know what? Did you watch the last season of Game of Thrones?
Yes,
Yeah. So, do you feel like that a lot of it was rushed?
yes. I feel
Yes,
like they
that's what I
were scrambling. It was like, hey, we came up with this. We have no idea where it's going, so let's put some stuff together because we got a deadline.
pretty much. And it's like, and dude, they had 2 years to make that thing too. Like that's the crazier part. Like the amount of time they had to make that, and it still came out as that. Like that's how I felt about Tenet. Tenet to me is like a mixture between like the confusion of watching Inception for the first time, not knowing what's really going on until you watch it a second and third time. But problem is, you still don't know what's going on. It feels rushed. You're like, what's the overall gist? What are we supposed to get from this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I asked a friend one time. I was like, "Yo, did you watch Tenet?" And he was like, "No, I can only take so much of somebody filming himself." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Watch the movie, man. Watch the trailers. This guy." He was like, "Watch the behind the scene interviews. This guy is filming himself." And then I watched the movie, and then I watched the behind the scenes. I was like, I kind of see where he's coming from because, like, there was things in that because I'm an independent filmmaker. I have a shoestring budget, if no budget at all. I would do some things where I would just rewind some of the footage to give that kind of look. He actually had his stunt team trained to do moves in reverse, and he had cars go in reverse. So you could have just rewound that. Like,
I
I
didn't even know that
never,
was a thing. Like the amount of work involved for that for no reason,
yeah,
potentially where that stuff could have gotten cut. It's like with Star Wars, right? Like Ewan McGregor trained for like 3 weeks on a very particular lightsaber scene just for it not to be in the final product.
mm,
You know what I mean? So it's like, why are you going to spend all this time and all this effort on something that's not going to even make the final cut? Like with something like that, like you had no idea if that was going to be in the final part of all of it. You know what I
not
mean?
to mention like he still uses film, not digital.
Right.
Yeah, he still uses film, so you can't really see the end product until they like print it and stuff like that. So it's like, which is why his fight scenes were not good in the Dark Knight series. But I'm like, come on, man, some of that stuff. I feel like you did that just so you could say we did this for real. I'm like, sometimes you could just do something and it still look good. Doesn't matter.
Was it just me, or did it seem like it was awfully quiet? Like the sound itself didn't feel like.
Yeah.
Was there a particular reason why I couldn't hear it, and I had to have my soundbar TV at like 30? I know I'm hard of hearing anyway, but that was like extra hard.
Dude, I saw it in theaters. I was like, what are they saying? What is going on? I missed like the first half hour because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't
What
hear
was
what
the
they were saying.
purpose in that?
I don't know. Like, I know when I watch his movies, or maybe just movies in general, like the dialogue's always quieter, and then the music. I feel like with his movies especially, the dialogue's very quiet, and then the music's like, boom, no, 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 and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. So whenever I watch his movies at home, I have my remote in my hand and I turn it up, turn it down. But like that movie, it was like people was like, yeah. I'm like, you're explaining a universe. I need to know the rules and how it works. Can you please slow down and like say what you're saying? And then some of that stuff, I'm like, did it have to be almost 3 hours? Like his movies are
I've
getting
seen that
longer.
movie twice, and I still don't have a full grasp of it. And like I'm pretty open when it comes to this stuff. Like, if I have to watch something twice and I still don't understand, it's not me being dumb. Maybe it should be simple. Like the whole point of a movie really is not to make you feel more confused about life before you went in, and I didn't see like a sense of purpose for it. You know what I mean? Like, was this something you're supposed to think about? And that's why I liked Interstellar so much, because Interstellar
Yes.
put a very complicated subject and simplified it for everyone to understand, you know?
Right. Right.
And I feel like with something like that, that's great. And that was one of the things that I appreciated about it. Plus, I mean, I feel like when it comes to any kind of Nolan movies, they're always casted great.
Yes. Yes. And
And
I think part of the reason we couldn't get into it is because we didn't really the main guy's name is protagonist. And you don't really know his end game, his what he's aiming for. Like with Interstellar, it's
mhm,
very clear. Hey, look, I gotta save the world, but I also gotta get back in time to see my kids. Like he's
right.
constantly finding it his time. What is the protagonist who's actually named protagonist intended? What is his what
Mhm.
is he trying to do? Is he trying to save the girl? Is what is his wants? What is his needs? Like if you can't really connect with your main character, the audience kind of gets like a disconnect. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I was kind of lost there. And I didn't know his name until I looked it up after I watched the movie in theaters and looked up on IMDb. I was like, oh, his name is protagonist. Oh, I thought he was just saying in the movie, I am the protagonist. Just to be like, hey, I'm the guy of this. Like, yo, I'm in charge. But he was like, hey, your code name is protagonist. So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
And it's not like he has like a whole universe for people to like look up and like make like Wikipedia articles about it. You know what I mean? Like this is a singular thing that is never going to have any kind of continuous stories or plot lines after. So I feel like with something like that, you should have like people's names and not have some kind of like ambiguous like, well, I'm like, I don't even know this guy's name. You know what I mean? Like, are we going to find out in another movie, which isn't going to happen? So why would you have something like that? You know what I mean?
I think the big thing is the Christopher Nolan always has his brother right with him, and
I
his
like
brother did very
Jonathan
well.
Nolan. He's very good.
Yeah, but Tenant he didn't write with him on. It was just purely Christopher Nolan. I think that's the difference.
Did you ever see Person of Interest, that show with Jim Caviezel?
No.
Jonathan Nolan did him and J.J. Abrams produced it. Nolan wrote it too. It's very well done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
It,
about a mass surveillance system that I forget this guy's name. You've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He kind of looks like James Gunn a little bit. But anyway, he's like a secret billionaire that no one knows that he's a billionaire, but he has access to all of this surveillance in the entire world. And Jim Caviezel is like an old CIA operative. So
hmm,
he hires him to fight crime by using this AI system to look at when there's a high probability of a crime that's going to happen with a particular person, and he gives them that person's profile and he like protects them and stuff, or like make sure that nothing bad happens to them. and you know, it lasted for like 6 years or so, and I
I've
love
seen it
that
on
show.
Netflix. It always gets suggested to
Hmm.
me. And because after watching Westworld, I'm like, yeah, I'm a Jonathan Nolan fan.
Yes,
Jonathan Nolan fan.
yes,
Westworld season one was perfection to me, perfection,
yes.
and I was amazed at what he accomplished. And I think it was because of Westworld that he wasn't able to write with Christopher Nolan on Tenet, so it was just purely a Christopher Nolan written piece. And I think
Hmm.
that's the missing piece of the puzzle. Because I just looked it up, like he didn't help him with that, but he's helped him on all the Batman movies, Interstellar, basically everything. It was just Tenet was missing.
Dunkirk. Did you see Dunkirk?
Yes, yes, I liked it. I
Me
liked
too.
I, it's like all his movies, all of them are well directed. Even if you're lost, all his stuff is well directed. It's something that you need to see, like how he transitions, how his storytelling is done. Like
Right.
he compartmentalizes the story and gives you this part, this part. I'm like, yo, he's a master at that. I just felt
Hmm.
like with Tenet, it was just
It
not.
wasn't the writing wasn't that good, but I feel like people confuse writing and directing as like this all in one thing, and it's not. Like you can have an okay written movie, but still be greatly directed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you can tell just based on like how, but the thing is, a lot of people don't look for that stuff. You know what I mean? Like with you, you're like, okay, so I can see how where he was going with this, and you may not necessarily pay attention to what they're actually physically saying. You're looking to more how everything's presented and how it gets transitioned. You
yeah,
know, and that's and that's I think that's part of the reason why you like seeing the movies more than once, because you can go in, focus on one particular thing, dissect it, go in for the next, and actually see it for what it is.
hmm yeah. That's why I wouldn't be good at reviewing movies because I'd watch it one time and I'd be like, I gotta see it again, so I can get a full picture. Because I need to see a movie at least twice because I'll either watch it first to enjoy it and then I'll analyze it, or I'll analyze it first and then I'll enjoy it. Particularly with Marvel movies, I watch them just to enjoy them and then I'll analyze them later.
Well, that's the whole point of them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, they're well made and it's full of action and all that other stuff, but at the end of the day, you're looking to see how is this going to continue the whole universe thing, you
Yeah.
know? And that's why it's like, that's why I don't have any faith in any of these DC movies really with anything. You know what I mean? It's like Suicide Squad, like they haven't. I mean, they showed stills of Jared Leto as a different type of Joker, which is cool, but now it's like you're retconning everything. Forget about the last movie. Everything. We're gonna redo it. And it's
I
like
feel like they're
this isn't
constantly.
a comic book where you could just write an alternate reality in there, and then that's it. Like that's not how that works. It's like with Marvel, right? Like Mephisto, who is Wanda's arch nemesis, who's also the Ghost Rider's arch nemesis. He was originally Johnny Torch in one series, right? I don't know if you know this, but
No.
the fans hated that idea so much they retconned it to where Johnny Torch ended up not going bad and turning into the devil.
Wow. Jeez.
That
Jeez.
so you know what I mean? And I was thinking, with like the WandaVision, that's where they were going to go with it. But I'm glad they did it because that would have just been ruinous of everything. But it's like with Suicide Squad, I feel like that's what they're doing because it's like James Gunn he's very, you can tell he's very meticulous in it with, especially when there's multiple characters that you got to flesh out, especially when really the only character that people know about is the Joker, you
Hmm.
know? So you have to find a way to flesh these characters out, make sure they make sense. You can kind of relate to them while at the same time doing this in a 2.5 hour movie with 6 other characters.
Yeah, I'm a little apprehensive about it because there's so many characters, but I try to have faith because I remember I like to do research before I see a movie. Before I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, I tried to look these characters up, and I was like, man, I'm just lost because this universe is all over the place. And he took obscure characters and made us all love them.
Everyone knows about them now, but they were the most
Exactly.
obscure Marvel characters. Like when I first saw like he was making this movie as like Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, really? You know
But
what I
he
mean?
changed them. He completely changed the characters
He
too.
did. They're not. They're a little bit like they were in the comics, but Peter Quill is nothing even remotely close in the comics to how Christopher Platt. You know what I mean?
In the comics, he's royalty, and he's
Yes.
more like he's more of a grittier Han Solo, I would say, because he's not as jokey in the comics.
By the book, everything. Not some space playboy. You know what I mean? That just flies around and steals stuff. You know, like
that's not his thing, man. Like they completely changed his character. Gamora is more badass in the comics. She's the like most craziest like killer in the universe. In the movie, she's like, we're not gonna kill anyone. We're not gonna do this, guys. We're gonna be nice. And if they need help, we're gonna help them. I'm like, that's not Gamora from the comics.
I think that's still a indictment of women superheroes.
Really?
I think. You know what I mean? Like, you just think of it, right? Like, you look at all the women superheroes as a whole, like, I still think, like, making them brutal is something they still don't want to cross.
What about,
because that takes away from society's view of women as a whole. Like, we still have traditional type of views with women. Like, if you make them like she's like a complete like butcher, then that takes away from the character and no one wants to deal with her. You know what I mean?
The fact that you said that reminds me how I'm so sick of female superheroes still fighting in high heels. Why does Wonder Woman have high heels on her costume?
Dude, it's something. At least they took the hypersexualization out of it, you know, with a lot of stuff, so that you actually make it more like, because I think now that they see that it's not just men who care about comics, you know what I mean? Like, it's a whole swath of different demographics. And, you know, the whole spandex, you can see, you know, their ass crack because the spandex is so into, you like, you know, but you get what I'm saying though. Like they've gone away from that type of thing, but for some reason, like, there's still some like traditional views that this is how a woman should be, and it shows in like in a comic book character with high heels, like Kristen Wiig's character of the cheetah or whatever it was. Like, it's the same thing. You know, like she became that way because she wanted to be a woman that was wanted, which is the traditional view of what Gal Gadot is. You know, like I feel like when you know, if I'm a woman, I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh, really? You know, like, this is what people want in a woman, you know, it's got to be tall and dark.
Well, we both know that movie was the writing for that movie was a little
right. No, yeah, I know. I get it. But it's like, that's just how it, like, they need to move on the next step with this stuff, because there's a lot of good women superheroes. Like, that's why I like Scarlet Witch so much, because they're starting to flesh her out to where she's willing to go places that, you know, hasn't before. And, you know, traditionally in the comic books, like, she's a badass, you know, superhero at the end of the day, and she's super powerful. Like, the amount of things that she's able to manipulate and do and stuff, like, I'm glad they're starting to go there with it. You know what I mean? And it's just like with Wonder Woman, it's just there's none of that, you know. And I feel like if Zack Snyder is going to do anything, I hope he fixes some of that stuff when he does Justice League, because you know how it is, right? Like, when you have these individual movies and then they all team up and do their own thing, it's like the character kind of changes a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, when the Hulk was in the Avengers movie, he was a different type of Hulk than the individual movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like you don't want to be doing that, because like Wonder Woman as an individual character is written, I think, is spectacular, you know? It's just the individual movie surrounding Wonder Woman is the bad part, I think. And then I just hope that when Zack Snyder incorporates her in there, it's going to be done the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm a fan of Wonder Woman from the comics, but not the movie.
Oh yeah.
But our time has run out, though. This was a great talk. We got to do this again. We're definitely going to do this again.
Sounds good to me, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, my Nomads. I'm Nigel Sanderson. See you around, Zach.
Later, brother.